Okay, welcome back on our journey through the human mind, which, if it isn't quite as vast as the galaxy that we're traveling through, it's certainly a lot more complicated. And what we're going to do in this video is we're going to talk about the mammals. Now, we have to understand the mammals before we can understand the mammalian brain, and so it's a bit of a sidestep. We're not really going to talk about the brain and how it works in this video. We're going to talk about the mammals and why mammalian biology gives us such a different kind of brain to the reptile brain that we talked about in the previous video. So that's what this video is going to be about. So listen on if you want to hear the story of the mammals. I did get a complaint that I spent far too much time talking about the game here that we're playing. We're really just using the journey as a bit of a backdrop to our story of thinking. So I'm going to try and not talk about the game. If there's anything that happens in the game that you want to know about, by all means drop a comment. And if you're enjoying the journey through the human mind, subscribe, because then you'll get more notifications. You get a notification, it'll come up on your thingy, your list of videos to watch that I've released a new video, and I'm trying to release videos fairly regularly. So anyway, the mammals. The mammals really have been around quite a long time, but their biggest problem when they first evolved and they first appeared on Earth was that the Earth was dominated by the dinosaurs. And we had these little scurrying rodent-like creatures, probably, running around under the feet of the dinosaurs. And most of them were laying eggs. Very probably all of them were laying eggs for quite a long time. And so what is it that makes a mammal? Well, it's not giving birth to live young, because we still have a couple of those egg-laying mammals extant on the Earth, the echidna and the duck-billed platypus. They're the monotremes, and they lay eggs. So what makes mammals a mammal then is in fact the... Oh, we've got some stuff to look at here. Is the fact that they feed their young with milk from a mammary gland, which is where the term mammal comes from, and the fact that they... let's go there. Has anybody been there before? Talc. Okay. The fact that they have hair. So mammals feed their young with milk, and they have hair. That's what all mammals do. But the thing is, as the mammals have hung around, they've evolved a couple of new types, couple of new models, if you like, or systems. And these systems have all to do with reproduction. And reproduction is the mammalian speciality. They've taken the reproduction and the protection of offspring to a level that is utterly extraordinary. And the end result is a brain that drives us completely on the basis of our reproduction. So it's a really, really complicated story, but if you think about it, so the monotremes lay little eggs and they hatch, and then the little embryo type thing crawls up onto a teat on the platypus's skin. Not even a teat, really. It's just a gland that secretes a fluid that the embryo feeds off, and the platypus stays there. This is the monotreme, stays there and feeds its young until the young's old enough to walk about and go fishing and stuff. The next stage in mammal evolution was the development of the pouch, where instead of having to nest in a hole and protect this very vulnerable young thing, the embryo was able to crawl out of the oviduct up into the pouch of the mother, and then attach itself to a nipple inside the pouch and be fed by this new innovation called the nipple, which is an extension of the mammary gland to feed the young. And that's all well and good. So what that basically meant was that the mammal young was protected because it was essentially in a pocket that went around with its mother, and so the mother would give it a huge chance of survival. And that's really the point. It's all about survival of your offspring. And as Darwin pointed out in The Survival of the Fittest, survival is not avoiding being eaten. Survival is reproducing. Survival is getting your genes into the next generation and making sure that your genes can survive. So the marsupials, these are the pouched mammals, were fairly successful, but they got split off from when Gondwana land split up. The marsupials went off with the bits of Gondwana land that became South America and Australia, and in the rest of it a new type of mammal evolved, and this was the placental mammal. And so this did away with the pouch altogether. What happened was that the mother and the embryo inside the mother's uterus get connected by a placenta, and the placenta allows the mother to feed the offspring, feed the fetus, as it's called now when it's attached to a placenta, inside the mother. And any mothers that are listening to this video, of course, know this very well. And this allows the baby or the fetus to grow to a considerable size before it is born. And then when it's born, it's still, in human terms, it's still relatively helpless, but there are some mammals where the offspring is born and if can basically run around quite happily as pretty much a couple of hours after it's born. If you watch some of those David Attenborough shows where antelopes and things are born. So that's all well and good. We've got a placenta and we've got a mother giving birth and feeding its young with milk while it's still growing. So it takes a while for the young mammal to get to a size where it can look after itself, right? But antelopes and things like that, wildebeest and zebras and things, the things you see in the David Attenborough shows, they're all relatively straightforward organisms. They run around, they eat grass, etc., etc. Their primary mechanism for survival is to watch for predators and run away, right? But the main thing that they do is they give birth to a young that is advanced enough to run with the herd pretty much as soon as it's born. And this is quite an extraordinary, oh dear, system. And as a result, we have females that are incredibly specialized for reproduction. This is the point. They have to put enormous resources into supporting themselves and their growing fetus and embryo underneath, inside their bodies, to give them that protection, to give them a real start in life. And the whole point is to be bigger than one cell when you're out there in the world looking after yourself. Fish, for example, they lay eggs, and the egg gets laid, another fish swims along, puts sperm on it, the thing's fertilized. You start off life as a single cell, completely at the mercy of whatever comes along with a big enough mouth to eat you. Now, the bigger you grow as an embryo or a fetus, the harder it is for something to eat you. There's basically, most predators can only eat what fits in their mouth, and as a result, they leave anything alone that's too big for them. And so being big is a major survival advantage. So where does this leave us with the mammals? Right. Well, the problem is that this whole business of producing one or two offspring, or maybe in the case of rabbits and mice and things like that, maybe 5 or 6 offspring in one go, is incredibly energy intensive. It requires an incredibly specialized body, which is what mammal females have. And this essentially has a big effect on how mammals select their genes for the next generation. How do you select genes when your mother is so specialized and the gestation process takes so long that essentially if your population is going to sustain itself, all of the females must be part of the breeding population. And that's the key. Now, most philosophers have never really figured this one out. Most of them, and a lot of psychologists, even in the modern world, I mean, our understanding of mammalian biology is relatively new, a full understanding of it. And the problem is that not knowing about this, or not taking it into account, because people knew about it. If you talk to, we domesticated cattle, what would that be, 10, 15,000 years ago? And any farmer you ask will tell you all you need to know about mammalian reproduction. All they need on their farm is a lot of females and 1 or 2 males. That's it. And so there's your selection. Farmers already knew that in order to perpetuate their herd, all the females have to produce new offspring. But in order to get those offspring to be the best possible, or the strongest possible, or have the traits that the farmer wants, like good meat or good milk or whatever, those good genes have to be selected from the right bull. And that's the point. In the end, there is no need. In the end, there's no need to have more than one male if you're a farmer. And this essentially is what happens in the natural populations as well. The males, instead of all being part of the breeding problem, have to make up for the fact that the females are all part of the breeding program. So what has to happen within the males is there has to be double the selection. In fish that lay eggs, males and females can both be selected against, and whoever survives lays eggs. But for mammals, it's the... Oh, went a bit fast there. Made a mistake with that one. For mammals, it's the... Let's see if that thing's still there. Wasn't paying attention there. For mammals, all the selection has to happen within the males. And so in some species of mammals, as many as 95% of the males of the population will not reproduce. They're all selected against, and only the 5% strongest males will be part of the breeding population. And it's entirely possible that this was originally how humans organized their selection as well. And I think that we can get onto the talk of, so the selected male, or the male that wins the battle of the selection, becomes, say, the alpha male and is able to reproduce. And that alpha male, in a standard old-fashioned mammalian population, a natural mammalian population, that alpha male... Slow down. Ooh, God, we're getting a bit close. So that alpha male is so the alpha male is going to produce a lot of offspring, because he's going to breed with almost all of the females in the population, or maybe 20% of the females in the population. So while females will generally only produce a certain number of offspring in their lifetime, along the lines of oh my goodness me. Yeah, that's all a bit weird. Anyway, while females can only produce a certain number of offspring, because their eggs are, the number of eggs that they produce are set at the beginning of their lifetime, the males can produce many because they keep producing sperm all through their lives. And so it's this system that allows mammals to select the best genes for their population. And it's this system of male selection that puts an awful lot of pressure on the survival of males. Females don't have to worry about individual survival. Their deal is that they just have to try and produce as many offspring as they can before they get knocked in the head or eaten by something. And remember, we're just talking about mammals in general here, not humans. But humans are mammals, so we need to remember that all the time. But the males themselves can face extraordinary levels of selection in mammalian populations, and as a result, they are incredibly competitive. Male mammals are the most intraspecific, they're most aggressive towards other males, other members of their own species, than any other type of organism. So you can pick anything, an insect, a fish, a jellyfish, any of those. The males are not aggressive towards each other particularly. Not any more aggressive towards each other than they would be towards a female in terms of selection, in terms of competition. But in mammals, the competition is about breeding. It's about getting your genes into the next population. And the males, because they can do an awful lot of, they can produce an awful lot of offspring, if they win that battle, they will get their genes into many, many, many offspring, many more offspring than the females will produce, because the females have to take time producing offspring. Eventually their bodies will not be able to produce any, not go through pregnancy. Every pregnancy is a damaging event for the female body. And this is just our biology. It's what we have to deal with. And so essentially when you're thinking about mammals, you can think about the females as being disposable. Our genes, our reproductive system produces as many offspring as possible before essentially the poor old worn out female is thrown away, or she's too sick to avoid predators, that kind of thing. So females are disposable. The males are essentially expendable. Only a few of them will ever breed. The rest are consigned to genetic history. Their genes will no longer appear in the gene pool. And the competition is about strength and survival. Most of them, if you watch the rutting deers and all the rest of it, you will see mammalian competition in action. And so we have not only some very, very, very specific behaviors that mammals produce, that there's the maternal instinct, the nurturing, the milk production, the pregnancy, all of that on the female side. But on the male side, there's aggression, there's strong, very, very fierce competition, life or death competition. I mean, it's not about the survival of the individual there, really. So if you've ever wondered, well, we'll talk about humans in another video, but the entire point is that the individual's instinct to survive is essentially switched off. If you watch rutting males of deer and the competing battles between various males in different species, they have to take life or death risks in order to try and win that battle to be able to breed, because your individual survival is irrelevant compared to the opportunity to breed. If you can't breed, you might as well die. That's the point. So there you go. I don't know how long this video is. It might be about 20 minutes, but we're going to have a look at this planet in a second. But there's the point. So we've understood a little bit about the mammals, and we're understanding something about the extreme nature of mammalian reproduction, because it's this extreme nature of mammalian reproduction that drives many of our behaviors, because our mammalian brain is the thing that drives that particular reproductive strategy. In males, it's about competition, aggression, and then trying to get hold of as many females as possible before you get knocked off your perch, as it were. And in fact, in some mammalian species, the male, when it takes over a group of females, or when it disposes of the previous alpha male, will immediately kill all the offspring of the previous alpha male, if there are any around, and it will attempt to disrupt the pregnancies of any females that are pregnant, because he needs to clear the field for himself to produce as many offspring as possible before he gets knocked off the perch. So we have these behaviors that are extreme in terms of the animal kingdom. Very, very, very extreme reproductive system that causes extreme behavior. And those behaviors are driven by a brain that has instinctive processes to make us go out and do all those things, to turn off our instinct for survival, to be competitive, to fight, to nurture young, to try and build a society, or to encourage a society that is safe for offspring. And the entire point of it is to produce offspring as large as possible so that they don't get eaten as soon as they appear, and gives them the best chance of survival. We produce fewer offspring, but it takes an awful lot more time and resources to get them on their feet. And so female mammals have to just do that. In a mammalian population, female mammals all have to breed, or the population will suffer. And the male population just needs to find the best male, and everybody else is irrelevant. Everybody else is disposable. Not disposable, is expendable. And as a result, so what I'm saying is that the females produce offspring until they can no longer produce offspring. The males either succeed or fail, and they are totally expendable. There you go. So there's the story of the mammals. We will move on in our next video to talking about the mammalian brain and how those behaviors of the mammals affect our behavior, and especially our behavior as we're growing up, because there's a lovely period in our lives before the mammalian brain gets turned on, and this is very unusual, and it's very, very specific to humans. And we could even call that little bit of our life the human brain. And in fact, there's a little bit of our later lives for certain members of us that the mammalian brain gets switched off again. But we'll talk about that in our next video. I hope you look forward to it. I hope you enjoy what you heard this time. I tried not to talk too much about the game. In fact, we're just sitting here looking into space because I got so wound up about that. And yeah, there you go. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll talk to you in the next video. See you next time.